Hello. At the time of this recording, it is March 6th, I believe. But this probably can get posted either end of April, beginning of May time frame, because that's where I'm at on my recordings. But as I've stated in previous videos, because I'm reading and that takes time, I'll eventually catch up with myself. So I think it was my last two Saturday videos, I discussed these two books and said the next one I'm going to read is this one. Well, I was going through the Patreon page of my spiritual teacher 2-3 days ago and found two Druid videos from Sad Bane, and you guys may pronounce it differently, but that's the way the channeling pronounced her name. Okay. One of them was a tier up, so today I actually upgraded to be able to get that video, and then I did a search for Druid period and discovered there's a lot more videos on there for me to learn from this teacher. Okay. In that same breath, I decided to explore that's right, it doesn't scroll in very well for getting rid of the fuzziness. I decided to explore the source of both stacks of these books, okay? And the online course is actually free. The interesting thing is these three books are the adult course, okay? These three books are the youth course. Okay, the youth course is ages 13 to 18. Now, compare those thicknesses. There's a lot less reading for the adults than there are for the kids. Go fig, right? But what I decided to do is I'm going to watch all the videos that my teacher has on her Patreon, and I did get the free membership to the New Order of Druids today, and I started the online Bardic Course. Now, where that's going to go, I don't know, because I'm supposed to be getting assignments through the forums. And so far, the forums don't work. So I may have just signed up for a dead course. We shall see. Either way, each course is supposed to take between 8 months and a year, and you can't post your assignments any closer than 5 or 6 days. So it's potential, because I've already read the books, or the first two anyway, that I can get through it faster than the mandatory 8 months. There is a test at the end to kind of graduate between, to the next level of courses, which I find rather interesting. Overall, I'm very curious about this whole thing, and I have finished taking notes on one of the videos on Patreon and one of the videos that's on YouTube for my teacher. And I think the one video that's on YouTube is an excerpt from a longer class from Patreon. I just have that feeling after I looked at the different titles. So that, and the fact that it's missing some information, because Sad Bane is talking about the story of Taliesin, and says she's going to share the story of Taliesin, and then in this specific recording, there isn't one. And the video ended in an abnormal way for my teacher, meaning there's more content after the point where that video ended. So, and she does this as kind of a preview on what kind of content you can get if you go to her Patreon page and pay, but she does give snippets here and there on YouTube. So if you have no money, you at least get some information. So the Bardic Course for the adult equates to entering the forest. Well, I guess it's okay there, entering the forest. Okay. These two books go together. And then these two books go together. So I'm figuring I'm going to go ahead and read the youth books anyway. And I'm probably going to do the same thing of give my comments on it. But something that's rather important is one of the things that Sadbane says is when we're reading myths and stories of old, we tend to read them from an intellectual standpoint. And that may be the issue that I'm having with the old tales. I'm reading them from an intellectual standpoint, which is why I'm not interested. So she says to read them from an experiential standpoint, as though you are the character within the story itself, and you are having these experiences. So in that vein, it's kind of like some of these stories would be like a guided meditation where you're inserting yourself into a story in some aspect. I will see what works best for me once I get to that point. But I am going to go through and read all or watch all these videos first, take all my notes and all that stuff before reattacking these books. If I've got 8 months to do all the essays and stuff, there's no reason not to go through the videos, get Sadbane's instructions to the fullest. There's only 2 videos that I will not have access to because I don't have that tier level yet. I don't know when I'm going to be able to afford to upgrade to that tier level, but most of the content is available for me right now to be able to just spend a couple of weeks and take grotesque notes on everything that's in there. So yeah, I don't know when my next recording of a video is going to be, but because of doing all these videos and reading this book and doing the exercises from this book, beginning of March now, I might be able to get done with the first exercise by the end of this month. Because there's a lot of content for me to go through. And, well, entering the forest, let me compare page numbers here. Okay, Druidic Course is 176 pages. Entering the Forest is 176 pages. Now, it does state on the back of this book that this course is contained within this course, and it says the same on the others as well. But the other two, the youth book is thicker, and I put them side by side and compared paragraph by paragraph, and they are not the same. It is different wording. And I don't know if they changed the wording because of the age group. I'm about to find out. Because this says a book for new and young. Okay, new. Whereas this just says Bardic Course. Roots of the Forest says a deeper journey into the Druid path. And Walking with Trees says delving deeper into the world of Druids. It doesn't mention anything about ovate on the cover of that book, but that is the one that's equivalent with ovate. So I have an interesting task ahead of me. I do not know how that's going to impact my future Druidic sacred geometry book. I'm between the videos that I'm watching, I'm already seeing some disconnects, but at the same time, one of the videos I watched today said not to allow history to impede your sacred journey, and she's right. I've already talked about in a previous video how our history is not as we know it. Anybody who's done any serious communicating with their higher selves or their guides, any entity that is helping you that is not of this realm, will tell you things of our history that are either not in our history books or completely opposite of what's in our history books. So, and I know a lot of people embodied have heartburn when history that we're told does not jive with what's in the history books, and they're like, no, the history you're telling me is not correct because my history book says this. I know several leaders that are that way. They have spiritual channels, and if it's not in the history book, then what they're getting they consider is incorrect, right? So we get bent around the axle of what the history actually is. And what's more important is we find our path and we journey that path as we're meant to do. Now, one of the questions that was asked in the one video that I finished watching today was something along the lines of, what do you think of humans today? And it was a very long answer. And the takeaway is she mentioned a triad, 3 things that humans are supposed to be. Loving is one, deeply entrenched into wisdom is the other, and I can't remember the third one off the top of my head, but when the video cut off, she stated that the history doesn't matter as long as you're on the path to returning to the triad that humans are supposed to be. So that was probably the biggest takeaway from that course, and that's why they broke it up the way they did, because the one question was in the beginning and that was in the end. So yeah, don't get bent around the axle if our reality isn't real. I'll put it bluntly. Understand where you're going to a degree, like the direction, and you'll get more and more understanding as you travel that path. Is the basics there. But I just want to share what's coming, and I really don't know how long it's going to take me to get through all this stuff. I may actually end up skipping the Enter the Forest if, as I'm reading it, it's too much like the original book. But again, in the Bardic Course, I didn't read all the stories because I was having trouble focusing. So I may have better luck focusing on the way it's written in this book. I don't know. I don't know on that one yet. We shall see. But it shouldn't take too long for these videos to be more current between the time that they're being recorded and the time they're being posted. Now, at this time, I don't know what I'm going to talk about in terms of content if I'm not done, because right now these are my Saturday videos and I want to keep doing a video every Saturday. The other ones are probably going to drop off, but I want to have one post every Saturday morning. So I don't know, maybe share some of the assignments that I'm doing, something like that. I'll have to think about that as I'm going through this portion of my journey. We shall see. Thank you for watching and have a good evening.